The room was dark except for the blue glow of the console. Commander Alan Ross stared at the old battle maps, a glass of whiskey in his hand. 10 years had passed since Earth lost the war against the Caledrons. 10 years since everything changed. Alan took another sip and closed his eyes. The memories came back, sharp and painful. His ship breaking apart. The screams on the comm. The Caledron ships surrounding them like hungry wolves. "You're here late again, Commander." Alan turned to see Admiral Peters in the doorway of the simulation room. "Just reviewing old strategies, sir," Alan said, quickly closing the battle display. "For what purpose? To teach cadets about battles they'll never fight?" Admiral Peters walked closer, his face tired in the dim light. "We both know the Caledrons don't allow us to have real warships anymore." Alan nodded and finished his drink. The burn in his throat matched the anger in his chest. Earth's mighty fleet was gone, replaced by small patrol ships that couldn't even leave the solar system without permission. "Tomorrow's class?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, sir. Basic defense tactics. Just remember to stick to the approved curriculum. No war stories. No talking about what we could have done differently." The Admiral's voice dropped lower. "The Caledron. Observers will be watching again." After the Admiral left, Alan gathered his things. His apartment was in the old officers' quarter, now mostly filled with Caledron officials and human collaborators. He walked past a group of Caledron guards, keeping his eyes down as they watched him pass. The aliens were tall and gray-skinned, with 4 eyes set in faces that never seemed to show emotion. Their armor glinted under the streetlights. Alan felt their gaze on his back until he turned the corner. Inside his small apartment, Alan put his bag down and went to the window. From here, he could see the hulking shapes of Caledron ships hovering over the city, always watching, always reminding humans who was in charge now. As he was about to close the blinds, a bright flash lit up the night sky. For a second, Alan thought it was lightning, but the light was too persistent, too focused. He grabbed his old military binoculars and looked up. Something was happening near one of the Caledron patrol ships. A strange energy pattern, like nothing he had seen before. Then it was gone. His comm unit beeped. The caller ID showed Katie Bennett, his old ship's doctor and one of the few friends he had left from before the war. "Did you see that?" Katie asked without greeting. "The light in the sky?" "Yes." "That wasn't Caledron tech," she whispered. Alan looked around his apartment, suddenly nervous. The Caledrons monitored all communications. "We shouldn't talk about this now. Meet me at the old place, 1 hour." Katie hung up. The old place was a small cafe near the harbor that had somehow survived both the war and the occupation. Its owner, Joe, had served in the Earth Fleet and kept a small back room for veterans to meet. The Caledrons knew about it but allowed it to continue, probably because it was easier to monitor people when they gathered in known locations. Alan walked quickly through the quiet streets. Curfew would start in 2 hours, and he didn't want to be caught outside after dark. The punishment for breaking curfew was harsh, a week in a work camp at minimum. Katie was already waiting in the back room when he arrived. She looked different than when they had served together, thinner with dark circles under her eyes and her once long hair cut short. Working in the Caledron Research Center took its toll. "I've been picking up strange signals for weeks," she said quietly after. Joe brought them coffee and closed the door. "Something's coming, Alan. Something that has the Caledrons worried." "What kind of signals?" "Old Earth military. Specifically, transponder codes that match ships lost during the final battle." Alan felt his heart beat faster. "That's impossible. Every ship was accounted for, destroyed or captured." "Not the Dauntless," Katie said. The name hung in the air between them. The UES Dauntless, the pride of Earth's fleet commanded by the legendary Captain Frank Vega. The ship had disappeared during the final battle, presumed destroyed while covering the retreat of civilian transports. "The Dauntless was vaporized," Alan said. "Everyone saw it happen." Katie pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A holographic display appeared showing signal patterns. "This is a recording from last month," she said. And this is the Dauntless's unique quantum signature from the War archives. The patterns overlapped perfectly. How did you get this? Alan asked, amazed and worried at the same time. Accessing War archives was strictly forbidden. I have clearance. For certain research materials, the Calidrons want me to study human quantum technology. Katie's voice turned bitter. They think our approach might solve some problems they're having. Alan stared at the matching patterns. If the Dauntless somehow survived. That's not all, Katie interrupted. 3 days ago, a Calidron scout ship went missing near Pluto's orbit. They sent 2 more to investigate, neither returned. They're keeping it quiet, Alan realized. No announcements, no increased patrols. Because they're scared, Katie said. Whatever it is, they don't want to face it in open battle. They're gathering their forces slowly, trying not to alarm anyone. Their conversation was interrupted by the cafe door slamming open. They heard Joe's voice, unnaturally loud. Good. Evening, officers, what can I get for you? The warning was clear. Calidron police were in the cafe. Katie quickly switched off her device and slipped it into her pocket. There's more, she whispered urgently. The Dauntless had experimental technology, a phase drive. It was supposed to allow instant travel across vast distances. I know the theories, Alan said. But it never worked. The door to the back room opened. A human officer in a collaborator uniform stood there, a Calidron behind him. Commander Ross, the human said. Dr. Bennett, what a coincidence finding you both here. Alan recognized him. Peter Walsh, once a junior officer under his command, now working for the Calidrons. Just catching up with an old friend, Alan said calmly. I'm sure, Walsh said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Unfortunately, I need you both to come with me. Special security directive. All former senior officers are being brought in for questioning. About what? Katie asked. The Calidron behind Walsh spoke, its voice a strange combination of hissing and clicking sounds that the translator converted to flat, emotionless English. About a ghost ship that has returned from the dead. About the Dauntless that you humans think will save you. Alan and Katie exchanged glances. So it was true. The Dauntless was coming back, and the Calidrons were terrified. Lily Winters hated the night shift at Europa Outpost. The small monitoring station orbiting Jupiter's moon was cold, quiet, and lonely. Most nights nothing happened except the regular ping of Calidron patrol ships passing through the outer system. Tonight was different. The signal had appeared 3 hours ago. At first Lily thought it was a glitch in the old Earth equipment. The Calidrons had never bothered to replace the human technology at minor outposts like this one, but the signal stayed, growing stronger. You should report it, said her colleague, Greg Howard. He stood behind her, looking at the strange reading on her screen. And tell them what? That I picked up a ghost signal matching a destroyed Earth warship? Lily shook her head. They'd think I was crazy. Or worse, they'd think we were hiding something. Greg ran a hand through his thinning hair. If it really is the Dauntless. It can't be, Lily said. That ship was destroyed 10 years ago. But the signal was unmistakable. Every ship had a unique quantum signature, like a fingerprint. This one matched the famous UES Dauntless perfectly. Lily had checked the archives 3 times. Greg looked at the station's small window, out toward the vast darkness of space. My brother served on a support vessel during the final battle. He saw the Dauntless take on 3 Calidron cruisers at once to cover the civilian retreat. There was an explosion, and then nothing. Everyone assumed it was destroyed. Lily pointed to her screen. According to this, it's approaching from beyond Pluto's orbit, moving slowly but steady. The Calidrons must know, Greg said. Maybe not. They've never been good at detecting our quantum signatures. That's why they let us keep monitoring the outer system. Lily hesitated. We should investigate. Are you crazy? In what? The station's emergency shuttle? Why not? It has enough fuel for a round trip. Greg stared at her. That's against every regulation. We'd lose our jobs. Maybe worse. If that really is the Dauntless coming home, do you think our jobs will matter anymore? 3 hours later, They were aboard the small shuttle, leaving Europa behind. The craft wasn't built for comfort or speed, just emergency evacuations. It smelled of old metal and recycled air. "We're breaking at least 15 regulations," Greg said as he checked the navigation. Lily didn't answer. She was focused on the signal, now much clearer as they moved farther from Jupiter's electromagnetic interference. "It's definitely the Dauntless," she said. "And there's something else mixed in with the signal, something I don't recognize." It took them 14 hours to reach the coordinates. What they found made them both sit in stunned silence. The UES Dauntless floated in the darkness, its outline familiar from countless historical images. But the ship was changed. Strange formations had grown on its hull, like metal vines or roots. Parts of it glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. "It's alive," whispered Greg. Lily checked the readings again. "No life signs, but there's energy flowing through the ship in patterns I've never seen before." "We should go back," Greg said. "Report this." "To the Calidrons, so they can destroy it before it reaches Earth?" Before Greg could answer, the shuttle's communication system crackled to life. A mechanical voice spoke. "Human vessel identified. Approach pattern accepted. You may dock in Bay 3. They looked at each other in shock. "It's inviting us aboard," Lily said. "Or it's a trap." Lily made her decision. She guided the shuttle toward the Dauntless, approaching the ship's side where a docking bay door had silently opened. Inside was darkness except for a line of soft blue lights leading from the bay into the ship. After they docked, Lily put on her environment suit. Greg reluctantly did the same. "This is insane," he said, checking his oxygen levels. "We don't know what happened to this ship, or if anyone's still alive." "That's why we need to find out," Lily replied. They entered through the airlock. The inside of the famous warship was cold and dark. Their flashlights revealed corridors that looked both familiar and alien. The standard Earth-Navy design was visible but strange. Shimmering patterns covered many surfaces. In places, the metal of the ship itself seemed to have transformed, flowing like liquid that had frozen in mid-motion. "What happened here?" Greg whispered. They followed the blue lights to what had once been the bridge. Most of the equipment was dark, but one console glowed softly. As they approached, a holographic image appeared above it. The image showed stars, planets, and something else, a swirling mass of energy unlike anything they had seen before. "That's not in our solar system," Lily said. A new voice spoke, making them both jump. "It is the Nexus, where we were trapped for 10 years. They turned to see a figure standing in the doorway. The man wore the uniform of an Earth Navy captain, but it was changed with the same strange flowing patterns they had seen throughout the ship. His face was gaunt, with glowing blue lines tracing beneath his skin. "Captain Frank Vega?" Lily asked. In disbelief, the man tilted his head. "What remains of him?" Greg stepped forward. "Sir, what happened to the Dauntless? Everyone thought you were destroyed." "Not destroyed, transformed." Vega walked to the hologram, his movements unnaturally smooth. "During the final battle, we activated the experimental phase drive. It was supposed to jump us to safety. Instead, it sent us somewhere else. A place between spaces where time and physics work differently." Lily moved closer to the hologram. "The Nexus?" "That's what the entity called it." Vega's eyes glowed slightly as he spoke. "We weren't alone there. Something ancient lives in that space. It saw potential in us, in humanity." "What did it do to you?" Greg asked. "It merged with us, with the ship, changed us to survive in its realm, and taught us about the Calidrons, what they really are, what they serve." A sudden tremor ran through the ship. The lights pulsed faster. "We've been detected," Vega said calmly. "A Calidron scout ship is approaching." Greg looked panicked. "We need to leave." "It's too late." Vega turned to one of the strange consoles and placed his hand on it. The patterns beneath his skin glowed, brighter, matching the patterns on the console. "The Dauntless needs to wake up fully now." Throughout the ship, systems began to power up. Lights flickered on. Mechanical sounds echoed through the corridors. "What's happening?" Lily asked. "The ship is preparing for battle," Vega said. "And for what comes after." On the main view screen they saw a Caladrin vessel approaching, weapons active. "They'll destroy us," Greg said. Vega smiled for the first time, a cold expression that didn't reach his eyes. "No, they won't. The Dauntless remembers what they did to Earth, to humanity, and it has returned with the power to make them pay." The ship trembled as energy built up in its new systems. On the screen, the Caladrin vessel fired its main weapon. The shot never reached them. It disappeared into what looked like a small fold in space just in front of the Dauntless. "Watch," said Vega. "Watch what happens when humanity's wrath is unleashed." The Dauntless fired back. Not with conventional weapons, but with a beam of that same strange blue energy they had seen throughout the ship. When it hit the Caladrin vessel, the alien ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. "This is just the beginning," Vega said, turning to Lily and Greg. "Earth will be free again, and the Caladrins will learn to fear the ship they thought they had destroyed." Alan Ross sat in the cold cell for what felt like days. The Caladrins had separated him from Katie after their arrest at the cafe. His cell had no windows, just smooth gray walls and a single light that never turned off. The door slid open. 2 human guards in collaborator uniforms entered, followed by a Caladrin official. "Commander Ross," the Caladrin said, its translator making the words sound flat and emotionless. "I am Sub-Commander Krell. I have questions about the UES Dauntless." "The Dauntless was destroyed 10 years ago," Alan said. "Everyone knows that. Yet it approaches our outer defense perimeter now." Krell moved closer. All 4 of its eyes focused on Alan. 3 of our scout ships have already been lost." Alan kept his face neutral, but his heart raced. So Katie had been right. The Dauntless had somehow survived and was coming home. "I know nothing about this," Alan said. "Perhaps," Krell replied. "But you served with Captain Frank Vega before the war. You were his tactical officer on the UES Horizon. That was 15 years ago. Yet you might understand how he thinks, what he plans." The Caladrin placed a datapad on the table. It showed an image that made Alan's breath catch. The Dauntless was there, but changed. Strange growths covered parts of its hull. Blue energy flowed through patterns that hadn't been part of the original design. "What happened to it?" Alan whispered. "We hoped you would tell us," Krell said. "This ship has destroyed 3 of our vessels without using any weapons we recognize." Before Alan could respond, alarms began to sound throughout the building. The Caladrin's communicator beeped. It listened, then turned to the guards. "Take him to the Central Command. High Commander Vexthor wants to speak with him personally." They marched Alan through corridors filled with rushing Caladrin soldiers. The mood was tense, almost panicked. Alan had never seen the aliens like this before. In the 10 years of occupation, the Caladrins had always been calm, confident in their control. The Central Command was housed in what had once been Earth's defense headquarters. Large screens covered the walls showing various views of space. Many screens focused on a single point, the Dauntless, now passing Mars orbit. High Commander Vexthor stood in the center of the room. Taller than most Caladrins, with armor, bearing symbols of high rank, Vexthor had been the one who accepted Earth's surrender 10 years ago. "Commander Ross," Vexthor said, "your ship approaches." "Not my ship," Alan replied. "I never served on the Dauntless." "But you know its captain. You humans share bonds we do not understand." Vexthor pointed to the main screen. "Tell me how to stop this." On the screen, a formation of 10 Caladrin warships approached the Dauntless. They opened fire simultaneously. The space around the Earthship warped and bent, absorbing the energy blasts. Then the Dauntless responded. Blue beams shot out, connecting, with each Caladrin ship. The beams didn't cause explosions. Instead, the ships simply came apart, breaking into pieces as if invisible hands were dismantling them. The room fell silent. "What is this technology?" Vexthor demanded. "No Earth ship had such capabilities." I don't know, Alan said honestly. That's not the same ship that left Earth 10 years ago. A new voice spoke from behind them. It was changed in the Nexus. Alan turned to see Katie being brought into the room, flanked by guards. She looked tired but unharmed. What Nexus? Vexthor asked. The phase dimension, Katie said. I accessed Captain Vega's old research files. The Dauntless was equipped with an experimental drive that was supposed to allow instant travel across space by passing through another dimension. The drive never worked, Alan said. Not as intended, Katie agreed. But what if instead of passing through this other dimension, the ship became trapped there? What if 10 years passed for us, but something different happened to them? Vexthor turned back to the screen. This ship must be destroyed before it reaches Earth orbit. Prepare the orbital defense platforms. The Calidran officers rushed to obey. Earth's former defense systems, now controlled by the Calidrans, powered up. The weapons that had once protected humanity were now aimed at perhaps its last hope. You can't stop it, Katie said quietly. You have no idea what you're facing. As if to prove her point, the Dauntless suddenly accelerated, moving at impossible speed. In seconds, it had passed the remaining Calidran ships and entered Earth orbit. All communication systems in the command center activated at once. Every screen showed the same image, Captain Frank Vega, but changed, with glowing lines beneath his skin and eyes that shined with blue light. People of Earth, Vega said, his voice calm but different, as if multiple voices spoke together. The Dauntless has returned. Cut transmission, Vexthor ordered. His officers tried, but nothing happened. For 10 years, you have lived under Calidran rule, Vega continued. This ends today. The Dauntless has come home, bringing knowledge and power from beyond our space. Earth will be free again. The message played everywhere, on all communication devices, all screens, all frequencies. No one could stop it. Vexthor turned to Alan, rage clear even on his alien face. Tell your captain to stand down. Tell him the consequences. What consequences? Alan asked. We hold your planet hostage. Vexthor pressed a button on his armor. A map appeared, showing Calidran troops surrounding major human cities. If this attack continues, we will destroy your population centers. Millions will die. On the screens, Vega's message continued. To the Calidran High Command, you have 1 hour to begin evacuation of all forces from Earth. Any resistance will be met with force you cannot comprehend. Vexthor grabbed Alan by the arm. You will send a message. Tell him to surrender or watch your people die. Before Alan could respond, the building shook. The lights flickered, then changed from normal white to a pulsing blue. The same blue that flowed through the Dauntless. What is happening? Vexthor demanded. One of his officers looked up from a console, fear evident. Sir, something is in our systems. It's taking control of everything. Defense platforms, communication networks, power grids. Another tremor ran through the building. Then all the screens changed again, showing a different message. Calidran control systems compromised. Defense platforms neutralized. Begin evacuation now. In that moment, everything changed. The Calidrans, so confident in their technological superiority for 10 years, looked lost. Their perfect control was slipping away, and Alan Ross smiled for the first time in a decade, I think, he said to Vexthor. Your time on Earth has run out. Lily watched in amazement as the Dauntless moved into Earth orbit. From the main bridge, the view of her home planet was breathtaking. Earth looked peaceful from space, betraying nothing of the Calidran occupation below. It's beautiful, she whispered. Captain Vega stood next to her, his changed body glowing softly with blue energy. I dreamed of seeing it again for 10 years, though time worked differently in the Nexus. Greg entered the bridge, still looking uncomfortable with the ship's strange modifications. The Calidrans are scrambling everything they have. 30 ships, approaching from their lunar base. They cannot harm us, Vega said calmly. The ship's systems hummed as if in agreement. Since awakening fully during their encounter with the first Calidran scout, the Dauntless had become more alive. The strange growths on the walls pulsed with energy. Screens appeared and disappeared as needed, without anyone touching controls. "What exactly happened to you in the Nexus?" Lily asked. She had been wanting to ask this question since they first found Vega. The captain was quiet for a moment. "When we activated the phase drive during the final battle, we were desperate. The ship was breaking apart. We had covered the civilian retreat, but the Caledrons had us surrounded." He moved to the center of the bridge where a holographic display showed Earth and the approaching Caledron ships. The drive was experimental. It was supposed to fold space, allowing us to jump instantly to another location. Instead, it tore a hole into another dimension entirely. The Nexus, a place where energy, matter, and consciousness exist differently. "And you were trapped there?" Greg asked. "Yes and no. We couldn't return immediately, but we weren't alone." Vega's eyes glowed brighter. "The entity found us, an ancient intelligence that had watched countless species evolve, fight, and die. It had been observing the Caledrons for millennia." "What did it want?" Lily moved closer to the display, watching as Caledron ships formed a defensive line between the Dauntless and Earth. "To help. It saw potential in humanity that the Caledrons lack, the capacity to grow, to change, to become more than we are." Vega touched the display, and it expanded to show the entire solar system. "The entity merged with our ship, our systems, and those of us who volunteered. It gave us knowledge and power beyond anything humans or Caledrons have achieved." "At what cost?" Greg asked. Vega turned to him. "We are no longer fully human, but we remember what it means to be human. We remember Earth, and we remember what the Caledrons did to our people." The ship trembled slightly as the first Caledron vessels opened fire. On the display, energy weapons blazed toward the Dauntless, only to dissipate against an invisible barrier. "Their weapons cannot touch us," Vega said. "Now watch what happens when Earth fights back." On the planet below, something was changing. Lights began to appear at specific points around the globe. Old Earth defense bases, long dormant under Caledron control. "What's happening?" Lily asked. "The entity gave us the ability to connect with systems remotely, to control technology through quantum links." Vega smiled. "For 10 years, the Caledrons have been using Earth's own defense grid to control us. Now, those systems answer to the Dauntless again. All across Earth, defense platforms that had been dark for a decade came to life. They turned, not toward the Dauntless, but toward the Caledron ships. We don't want to destroy them all," Vega explained. "Just enough to show them Earth is no longer theirs." The platforms fired in perfect unison. 5 Caledron ships exploded immediately. The others scattered, trying to regroup. "Now we open communication," Vega said. Down in the Caledron Central Command on Earth, Alan Ross watched as the High Commander Vexthor struggled to maintain control. Reports were coming in from all over the planet. Earth's defense systems had activated and were now targeting Caledron ships and ground forces. "What is happening?" Vexthor demanded. "How is this possible?" Alan exchanged looks with Katie, who had been brought to the command center with him. They had both seen the same thing, how the blue energy from the Dauntless had spread through the building systems, changing them. "Your control is over," Alan said simply. Before Vexthor could respond, every screen in the command center changed. Captain Vega's face appeared, looking at them with his glowing eyes. "High Commander Vexthor," Vega said, "I offer you one chance. Leave Earth peacefully, or be destroyed." Vexthor hissed, a sound his translator didn't convert. "You have no authority. Earth surrendered legally under galactic law. This planet belongs to the Caledron Empire now." "Laws made by conquerors to justify conquest," Vega replied calmly. "The Dauntless does not recognize your authority. Neither does Earth any longer." As if to emphasize his point, the restraints on Alan and Katie suddenly opened. All around the command center, the doors unlocked. Human staff members who had been forced to work for the Caledrons looked up in surprise. "Your choice, Commander," Vega continued. "Peace or war, but know this, the Dauntless is not alone, and it cannot be defeated by any technology you possess." Vexthor turned to his officers. "Prepare the supercannon. Target their ship directly. Sir, one officer replied nervously. The weapon will damage the planet's atmosphere if fired from orbit. I don't care, Vexthor shouted. If we cannot have this world, they will inherit only ashes. Alan moved quickly, grabbing a weapon from a distracted guard. Katie did the same. Around them, other humans were also taking action. Years of suppressed rage finally finding an outlet. This is our planet, Alan said, pointing the weapon at Vexthor. And we want it back. In orbit, the Dauntless detected the massive energy buildup as the Calidran supercannon prepared to fire. This weapon was different, powerful enough to potentially pierce even their advanced shields. They're going to fire a planet killer, Greg said, looking at the readouts. If that hits the atmosphere... It won't, Vega assured him. The entity prepared us for this. The Dauntless began to change shape, parts of its hull flowing and reforming. A section opened, revealing what looked like a mirror made of pure energy. Reflect, Vega commanded. When the Calidran supercannon fired, its massive energy beam shot straight toward Earth. But before it could reach the planet, the Dauntless moved into its path. The energy mirror activated, catching the beam. For a moment, the ship seemed to absorb the incredible power of the weapon. Then with a pulse that shook the surrounding space, it redirected the beam back toward its source. The Calidran command ship, from which Vexthor had ordered the attack, took the full force of its own weapon. It didn't just explode, it disintegrated, completely. In the Earth Command Center, the Calidrans watched in horror as their flagship disappeared. Their perfect technology, their supreme confidence, all of it was failing against this one ship that had returned from the dead. Alan Ross raised his weapon higher. Your commander is gone. Your flagship is destroyed. It's over. The remaining Calidrans looked at each other, then slowly raised their hands in surrender. After 10 years of occupation, Earth was taking its first step toward freedom. And it was all because of a forgotten warship that had returned with unstoppable wrath. 3 days after the Dauntless returned, Earth was a different world. The Calidrans were in full retreat, their ships gathered near the moon, preparing to leave the solar system. On the planet below, humans celebrated in the streets. 10 years of occupation had ended in just 72 hours. Alan Ross stood at the window of what had been the Calidran High Command Center. Now it was the headquarters of the newly formed Earth Liberation Council. He watched people dancing in the square, below their faces full of joy and disbelief. Hard to believe, isn't it? Katie said, joining him at the window. She looked tired but happy. She had been working non-stop since the surrender, helping organize medical teams for those injured in the fighting. I keep expecting to wake up, Alan admitted. To find myself back in my small apartment with Calidran ships still in the sky. But they're really leaving, Katie said, pointing to a news feed on a nearby screen. It showed Calidran transport ships loading the last of their forces. After everything they took from us after telling us for 10 years that Earth would always be theirs, they're just leaving. Because they're afraid, Alan said. Not just of the Dauntless, but of what it represents. Of what might follow it. Home. A young officer approached them. Commander Ross, Dr. Bennett, the shuttle is ready. Captain Vega is waiting for you on the Dauntless. The trip to orbit took less than 20 minutes. As their shuttle approached the Dauntless, Alan could finally see the full extent of the ship's transformation. The once sleek warship now looked almost organic. The strange growths covered most of its hull, pulsing with blue energy. In places, the metal itself seemed alive, flowing and shifting slightly as they watched. They docked in a bay that still looked mostly human in design, though blue energy lines ran through the walls and floor. Lily Winters was waiting for them. Welcome aboard, she said, shaking their hands. The captain is on the bridge. He's eager to meet you both. As they walked through the ship, Alan noticed how the crew, what remained of it, had adapted to the changes. Some, like Lily, appeared completely normal. Others had started to show the same blue lines beneath their skin that marked Captain Vega. The entity's influence affects everyone differently, Lily explained, noticing Alan's gaze. Those who embrace it more fully undergo more physical changes. It's always voluntary. And what does it feel like? Katie asked, her scientific curiosity clear in her voice. Like being more than yourself, Lily said after thinking for a moment. Like being connected to something vast and ancient and wise. The bridge of the Dauntless was nothing like the military design Alan remembered from old Earth ships. It was open and circular, with flowing surfaces instead of hard control stations. In the center stood Captain Frank Vega, looking out at Earth through a large viewing port. Commander Ross. Dr. Bennett. Vega turned to greet them. His voice had the same strange, multi-layered quality they had heard in his broadcasts. Thank you for coming. Thank you for returning, Alan said simply. For saving Earth? Vega smiled. Earth saved itself. We just provided the means. What happens now? Katie asked. The Caledrons are leaving, but they still control hundreds of worlds. Their empire is vast. And they serve an even greater power, Vega said, his expression growing serious. That's what I need to tell you about. Why I asked you here. He waved. A hand and a holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed the galaxy, with certain regions highlighted in different colors. The Caledrons aren't the true threat, Vega explained. They're just the outer edge of something much larger and more dangerous. Something the entity in the Nexus has been watching for thousands of years. The display zoomed in on a section of the galaxy far from Earth. A dark mass seemed to spread across multiple star systems. They call themselves the Harvesters, Vega continued. They consume worlds, not just conquer them, but strip them of all resources, all life. They use species like the Caledrons as advance forces to prepare planets for harvesting. Alan and Katie exchanged worried looks. Earth was being prepared, Katie asked. Yes. The Caledron occupation was just the first stage. In another decade, the Harvesters would have arrived. Vega's eyes glowed brighter. The entity showed us this future. That's why it helped us, changed us. It has opposed the Harvesters for millennia. So driving away the Caledrons isn't enough, Alan said, understanding now. The Harvesters will still come. Eventually, yes. But now Earth has time to prepare, and knowledge that no other species had at this stage. Vega gestured and the hologram changed, showing technical schematics. The entity has given us technologies that can help Earth defend itself, ways to create more ships like the Dauntless. You're leaving, aren't you? Lily spoke up from where she had been quietly listening. That's why you asked them here. You're going to face the Harvesters. Vega nodded. The Dauntless must continue its mission. We must find other worlds oppressed by the Caledrons and warn them about what's coming. Create an alliance strong enough to stand against the Harvesters. How long will you be gone? Alan asked. Years, perhaps. But we'll return. Vega looked back at Earth through the viewing port. In the meantime, Earth needs leaders who understand the true threat. People who can guide humanity's recovery and preparation. He turned to Alan and Katie. That's why I asked you here. Not just to explain, but to offer you a choice. What choice? Katie asked. Stay on Earth, help rebuild. Use the knowledge we've given you to prepare defenses. Vega paused. Or join us. Become part of what the Dauntless now is. Help us find allies against the coming storm. Alan looked at Earth, beautiful and blue below them. For 10 years he had dreamed of seeing it free again. Now it was, but a new threat loomed. How much time do we have? He asked. Before the Harvesters reach Earth? 20 years, perhaps 30. Vega's voice was grave. Not long enough if Earth stands alone. Then we need allies, Alan said, making his decision. I'll join you. Katie nodded. Me too. Earth has other good leaders. They can handle the rebuilding. They need us out there finding friends. Vega smiled, looking more human for a moment. The entity thought you might say that. Lily stepped forward. I'm staying with the ship too. Someone needs to explain Earth to our future allies. As they spoke, the Dauntless hummed around them, almost as if approving their choices. Through the viewport, they could see the last Calidran ships leaving Earth orbit, fleeing from the warship they had failed to destroy 10 years ago. "When do we leave?" Alan asked. "Tomorrow," Vega said. "We've done what we came to do here. Earth is free." His eyes glowed with determination. "Now we make sure it stays that way." The forgotten warship had returned and unleashed its wrath upon Earth's oppressors. But its true mission was just beginning. Beyond Earth, across the stars, others waited for liberation, and beyond them, in the darkness between galaxies, the harvesters watched and hungered. The war for humanity's future had only just begun.